Right, so it's me today with a glamorous couple who live together, so they're allowed to be next to each other. So don't worry about the social distancing. Uh, so this is Steve, who's one of our dad champion, Dad Matters volunteer, and Emma, his wife, who is also one of our amazing infant feeding support peer support workers for Home Start. Because this week it is breastfeeding celebration week and volunteer celebration week. So we thought, they live together, we might as well get them both on at the same time. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
All right.
We're good, thank you.
Is it a bit nerve-wracking, this live thing?
Yeah.
No.
It's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
Do you know, Emma, you should be used to it now. You've done loads of videos for the infant
Yeah,
feeding. Gone down
yeah.
really well.
Yeah, I've done a couple.
Yes.
I'm working on some more, but just taking my time.
Excellent. So we've got about 20 people watching now. Dom, how are you doing? Nice to see you, Dom. Okay, so we're going to start with Emma. It's like I'm grilling you on BBC Breakfast or something, isn't it? Not like that at all. So Emma, before you started working for us as one of our peer support workers, is that your job title?
Yes.
So before you started doing that, how did you kind of feel about the whole working in breastfeeding or working in family support? What was going through your mind?
Well, my journey to becoming a volunteer started with feeding my daughters, and it just inspired me really to be able to help other mums with their breastfeeding experience. And I just looked into doing the course with Home Start. A really lovely health visitor, Joe Mayall at Saddleworth, recommended that I get in touch with Home Start and get onto the next course. So once my youngest was at an age where I could do it, then I did a 14-week course and became a volunteer. And I just enjoyed it so much and thought, well, maybe a change in career. I was ready for a bit of a change, and then applied for a job, and it'll be nearly 2 years since I've been a paid peer support worker. But it's felt like a lot longer because I've been so welcomed in the team, being a volunteer for about 18 months before that. So yeah, it's been a really nice progression, and I just love it.
Do you think volunteering was kind of, if you hadn't had the volunteering opportunity, do you think you would have been applying for the jobs as well, or did that really help you to decide you wanted to do it?
I think definitely being a volunteer opened it up, and yeah, the skills that I needed to do the job definitely came in hand with the volunteering. And obviously, like, my own experiences helped massively, but the volunteering definitely kicked it off and made me think that there's more out there, really. So
What
yeah.
what were you doing before you did the volunteering? What kind of what was your career path looking like then?
I was a beauty therapist for 17 years, and I loved my job. I'll always have those skills, but I'd obviously work with the public throughout that, and meeting new people all the time, and just having those skills, really speaking to people and making people feel good about themselves, helping them to feel good about themselves. So that was a really positive thing that helped me with the skills being transferred into this job, really. But it was just time for a change, and obviously with 2 young children, careers change along the way. It has to fit in around them. So I decided that was that time to work different hours and be a bit more flexible around the family.
That sounds great. You know what? Beauty therapy's lost you, but we gained you. That's how I see it. Definitely. So what's been what are the highlights of the job that you're doing now? And obviously the volunteering that you're doing, but the kind of support you give families. What's been the highlights?
The highlight is being able to just make such a difference to the mums and parents that I speak to and the families. I've had to sort of come out of my comfort zone in many ways, going online during these times at the moment is something that I'm just not used to doing so much, but I'm really spurred on by those mums really wanting to connect and with each other, and I need to sort of be there to do that for them. The feedback that we're getting from the online Zoom groups is amazing. We've also got some WhatsApp groups as well, and the feedback, the mums are just so, you know, it's just making such a difference to their experience, having somebody to speak to about infant feeding, and just being that friendly sort of informative person to be on hand and connecting them all together. They're really enjoying it. So it's the feedback, I think, massively, when you hear how much of a difference that you make to people's lives. It's really nice to hear.
No, it's really good. We've had a couple of comments from Mick and Lucky saying, for you, Emma, you do amazing work and that you're a great member of the team. So it's kind of nice, isn't it, when you've got a team like ours where you can give people those kind of compliments constantly, even though you're not doing the same job. It's a nice kind of interaction, I think. What do you think about dads with feeding? We had a video today that we posted, and it's Marie, I think. Hi, Marie. I know she's watching. Talking about how partners can get involved in breastfeeding. Do you have a lot of interaction with dads with the work you're doing?
Not so much on the Zoom meetings, on the online groups. We did before lockdown, when we did home visits. A lot of the time dads were there, so we'd speak to them. A lot of the time I'd speak about Dads Matters, obviously talk about that there's always support there for dads. And obviously one of the reasons why Steve started wanting to volunteer was because he could see how passionate I was about my work, and he was interested in, you know, what drove me really. And I just said, you know, the dads need so much support as well.
I asked you that question, didn't I?
Yeah.
So what about the dads?
What about the dads? Yeah.
When you're there with mums.
Yeah. And I just said, you know, why don't you look into it? And it's a really nice thing. And especially after being supportive with me with breastfeeding our daughters, he could see all those things that we've been through, all those ups and downs, and, you know, managing that. Having that experience yourself really does help with other people. So yeah, we speak to some dads, but not as much as what we'd like to really. It's more with the mums.
Yeah, we always talk to dads about how and it's not just with feeding, but dads don't feel sometimes allowed to talk to the services around mum, or they feel it's just for mum and that they don't want to get involved or take anything away. So we always say, you know, feeding decisions and supporting mum, supporting baby, all of that is part of your role, and try and encourage them to talk to you guys. I know sometimes dads are the ones who do the phone calls late at night when they're struggling, or mum's upset, or something's going, needs some support. And dads do take that kind of role. But it's great that you guys are there and you're so supportive. I love kind of referring into you. Towards the end of the video, we'll put a post in the comments with how to contact the infant feeding team if you're in Tameside or Oldham. But there's also other contacts that we can give you for national support and across Greater Manchester. So, Steve, we nearly brought you in there and then we kind of left it. How did you find out about us? Was it just, like you said, was it just because Emma was already working with us and you were kind of curious?
Yeah, I think I visited the office, didn't I? Did I visit the office?
You called in.
Called
in.
And then she introduced me to what you were doing and said, you know, you should have a chat with Kieran. And, you know, you've got some background knowledge from listening to what, you know, she does as a job with the mums that she's supporting. And I worked for a company at the time, I still work for the same company, who were dead supportive of volunteering. So it was always on the radar with work saying, you know, you need to find something you can get involved in, because we actively encourage it as a business. And it just came through the work that Emma was doing, really.
So when you found out about us, what was the first thing you thought when you heard about Dad Matters? What did you think we'd do?
It was the logo that caught my eye, and having that when my hair is at full length, it sort of looked a bit like me, which was probably the first thing that I saw. So that connected, but I didn't really know anything about what you did until we did the induction. I didn't really know a lot about it because at the time there weren't as much social media. You know, you've built it up to what it is now, but it was still in its infancy, weren't it, at the time? So
yeah, we get that a lot. People think that we're a dad's play and stay group, or we're supporting dads that maybe are not seeing the children. Although that's part of our work is signposting into those services.
yeah,
We're very much around that parent support and that mental health support and supporting babies' attachment and stuff like that. And I suppose when you did the induction, when we went through the training that first time, that's probably when you get a bit of a light bulb moment, don't you, about maybe this is stuff that you've already been doing, and talking to other dads about it just helps them to understand that they're allowed to as well.
and it brings your own experience back to the front as well. So you think of everything that you did and didn't do yourself, and how things have changed. So things like swaddling, for example, where first that was a thing that they did as standard in hospitals, but we know that's changed now as well, haven't we? So you know, as a dad, it just it was good. It was good education.
I think one of the things that's changed since I was a dad. Well, no, I will always be a dad. But when I had little ones, we used mittens. My eldest had eczema, so she always had mittens on. We didn't want her to scratch or hurt her face. And then my youngest, we had mittens as well. And now we know that actually those mittens can get in the way of them soothing and feeling their own skin.
Yeah.
And it's a catch-22 in it. You want to give people the best kind of support and advice and guidance that you can, but there's that guilt of what you've already done with your own kids, you know. And sometimes I feel like a bit of a hypocrite saying this is kind of what we encourage you to do, but I didn't do it.
The great thing is you've got all the science behind it, all the facts behind it, and research behind it. So you're giving best knowledge, aren't you, for them to make a decision, which is the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things about volunteering with us is the amount of time we ask for. Do you think that was a factor in you agreeing to it, in the kind of the minimum amount of time that we asked?
I'd seen what Emma had done in her volunteering role, and that sat perfectly with me. Yeah, wasn't too much of a demand, or you could give back as much as you wanted as well. So if you wanted to do more, you could do. And with Emma, it's obviously progressed into a career for her. So
yeah, we've had a few dads that have said volunteering in the kind of the home start way might be a bit too much, doing 2 to 3 hours a week and being committed to that family constantly. But I think with the Dad Matters, and it's quite flexible in terms of how often we do it. We found that that's quite appealing for dads. What do you think out of the two kind of options that we have? So we have outreach, where we have volunteers who go to the antenatal clinics or postnatal clinics and speak to dads, talk to them about the baby and help them to have that kind of relationship, that psychological space for that relationship with the baby. Or we have groups where we facilitate the dad chat and we get dads to talk about attachment and mental health and access to services. Out of those two, which one did you think first, the first one that you thought you would do? And have you changed your mind, or is it developed a bit since you?
I think groups was probably the initial one that I thought I'd enjoy doing more than anything. It's a bit like what I do for a job in a way. It fits comfortably with being in front of people and giving guidance and support and helping them to go in a certain direction and giving them facts and figures and information. It's a bit like being at work. I quite like the idea of outreach as well. So I think that's could be a bit more of a challenging environment because you're meeting people who probably didn't expect you to be there. So yeah. you may get people who are at that particular time feeling a certain way and could do with that person just to speak to, if nothing else.
Absolutely. And I think the outreach is more flexible because we can do that at any time. There are always antenatal scans or antenatal appointments happening all week and evenings and weekends.
And I remember going to them myself, and as you sat there waiting, you get a lot of questions, and you're not always going to speak to your partner, and there's no one else there because you're there supporting your partner in them appointments. It's about them. So as a dad, I think that sits really well, and I would have appreciated something like that as a before being a dad or as a second time dad. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I think we've got Sarita, so she's the clinical psychologist for the early attachment service in Rochdale. She says hello. She's curious about what we've learned from others from doing this. I'm not sure whether you mean me, Sarita, or if you mean our lovely couple. That sounds like I'm Cilla Black or something, doesn't it? And you're on the screen at the end of Blind Date. So yeah, Sarita, if you clear that up for me, we can answer that, no problem. We've also got Scott. Hi Scott, how you doing? And Alex, nice to see you. We've got about 18 comments, but I can only see the top 4. So Mick, if you can answer some of those comments for me, that would be amazing, or even text them to me. So Steve, when we're volunteering, we got to the point where the day before our first Oldham group was going to run, we were told we couldn't go and run any groups. How did you feel? Were you kind of ready to go as well?
I was psyched up and ready to go. Yeah. Just processed all the knowledge that you'd imparted during the training session, and just wanted to crack on really. And yeah, and then obviously disappointment kicked in and couldn't do anything. So it was like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
So from that, and this is kind of to both of you, what so it's Sarita was saying, what have you two learned from other people? What kind of stuff has helped you to become better at it, or better parents, or more in tune with your kids, or what is it that you've learned from the whole kind of process? What do you think?
I think the amount of training that we have and the ongoing support from our team, we have lots of supervision so we can reflect. It really does make you think about your own experience and about sort of helping somebody else's ongoing experience. You can't fix anything, you're just there to sort of help, sort of guide really, and give them that information. Just like the days when we were looking maybe for that information and we weren't giving it along the way through no fault of anybody's, it wasn't there, and we just had to find our own way. So I think knowing now we've got access to all this amazing, the resources that we have now, the signposting that we can do to parents, then that is just a massive thing. And also it does help develop me definitely as a parent. I can use those skills that I learn on training all the time with my own children. Really, really useful for developing and just being more patient really, and enjoying them rather than rushing things.
Make us interesting grandparents at one point, that'll be for sure.
Yeah, we have open conversations in my house. My girls are obviously older, and they both know that I tell people about this, but we talk about relationships and physical relationships and puberty and periods and all of those things. And having 2 girls and being a dad doesn't mean you can't do all of that kind of stuff. I think doing the job that I'm doing makes it easier, and I feel a bit more open about it, particularly when you see the people that you see. And what about you, Steve? What about so you've done the training. What stood out for you during the training that we've been doing?
I think it was the changes in how to look after a baby. You know, things like we were talking about the mittens, the swaddling. We watched a video on Monday, weren't it? It was Monday, weren't it? About still face. You know, they did the test with a baby with a dad, and dad turned away, came back with no expression on his face, and the reaction and the effect it had on the baby was absolutely eye-opening. I don't know why I'd forgotten about that from the first time we did the training. Is that a new video, or was that on the first round?
It probably would have been a shorter version of it on the first round, yeah.
But just everything within the training just opened your eyes. And at first I was a bit worried that I was going to, when I actually do the volunteering, is getting to them sort of difficult conversations with dads. But I think it's great that we've got that knowledge as volunteers just for ourselves. We're not going to, obviously, as you say, show that video during a group session. But just the science behind it and the studies, it's just amazing.
Helps us to kind of feel a bit reinforced as to why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, it does.
And we, like, as a volunteer, we don't expect you to go and tell dads about the science. No. You just got to be there as a dad and show empathy and let them ask questions and show them where to go if they've got questions, that kind of stuff.
But it just shows how important that first stage is for a baby.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I've not had any texts or any other messages since that, so I think we covered them. So that's good. One thing that I wanted to announce tonight, and you guys are on here, and hopefully, Steve, you'll be interested in this. Today, me and Mick and Nick, the Dad Matters coordinators, went to Bolton Hospital and did a pop-up shop. And it's the first one we've done, and I've not seen anywhere else in the country doing them. The idea being that we chase dads around the car park while they're waiting for their partners to come out of antenatal scans. We don't chase them. Obviously, it's risk assessed, and we have everything in place to keep us safe, so we don't really chase. But we do want to speak to dads. Today was a bit of a recce, and we didn't really approach a lot of dads. We spoke to maybe 3 or 4, but there was 30 dads there in 2.5 hours. So we're gonna continue these. We've started in Bolton now. We've got the clearance through our trustees, through the directors of the trust in the NHS in Bolton. So we're hoping now to approach some of the other trusts and get this happening in other hospitals as well. Obviously, we don't need to go inside the hospital. We can keep everything nice and safe and clean outside the hospital. And dads are getting the information that they can't get because they're not going to antenatal appointments, or they're not going into labour until mum's in established labour and is in her own room. So yeah, it's a really positive step. And I think for volunteers like you, Steve, who are so eager to go and do something, and we felt it too. We really wanted to get out of the house and do some work. I think it's a really good step forward. So if you're not volunteering for us and you want to, get hold of us. We'll send you a pack. You can get on the training. We can get it all done online, and you can help us out. Would you say, Steve, that volunteering for us is a good idea?
Yes.
You couldn't really say anything else then, to be fair.
I'd have said no if I didn't think it was, to be fair.
No, we appreciate that.
I've done some other volunteering where I could quite easily tell you, no, it's not worthwhile.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. The volunteering's it's good for us, isn't it? You know, we know that the dads and the mums and the babies are getting something from it. We know that all the health visitors and midwives are getting positive impact from what we're doing, but it helps us out as well.
It does.
Definitely. Right, guys. I think that's it for now. We're up to about 25 minutes. That's long enough for a dad chat. Thank you very much. Check out the post tomorrow evening about our pop-up shops. We'll be showing some pictures and telling you what we're doing. And we'll catch you next week. Thank you, Emma and Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Catch you soon.
See you later.
Bye-bye.